Imagine for a second that you are standing in the middle of this absolute wasteland. The wind is howling, the ground is completely barren, and you are holding this worn, ancient, leather-bound text.
Just total desolation all around you.
Right, total desolation. Now, half the world looks at this exact book and views it as like a magical spell book.
Yeah, they think it was dictated directly from the clouds by a glowing being.
Exactly, completely divorced from real human struggle. And then the other half of the world looks at it, scoffs, and just dismisses it entirely.
It's an outdated myth, right?
Like a collection of Bronze Age fairy tales that have absolutely no bearing on our modern, technologically advanced lives.
But what if I told you that both of those sides are looking at it completely wrong?
Which they are, based on the sources we're diving into today.
Yeah, I mean, what if this isn't a book of magic, and it certainly isn't a fairy tale? What if it is essentially a survival manual? Okay, let's unpack this. That is the exact tension we have to navigate today. And to do that properly, we have to establish a very strict, almost uncomfortable core framework for this deep dive.
Uncomfortable is definitely the right word for it.
It really is. So we are adopting a lens that the sources call materialist Christianity. And right out of the gate, we need to be incredibly clear about what this means. We are not here today to debate metaphysics.
No.
We aren't here to argue abstract theology or parse out supernatural beliefs or, decide if miracles somehow suspend the laws of physics.
Yeah, that is definitely not our project today.
Not at all. Instead, we are here to conduct a forensic sociological teardown of the opening of the Bible, which is Genesis 1.
And for those of you listening who might be encountering this term for the first time, materialist Christianity is essentially this realization that moral truth is not arbitrary.
Right.
It wasn't just handed down from the sky on a golden tablet to people who had it easy. Moral truth is historical. It's emergent.
Yes, emergent is key.
It was discovered, and often brutally discovered, through thousands of years of human survival, agonizing labor, and societal contradiction.
I mean, the people who wrote these texts were literally trying to figure out how to keep their communities from tearing each other apart.
Or starving to death in the winter.
Exactly. What's fascinating here is the baseline rule we have to accept to make this teardown work. I like to call it the rule of religion as applied physics.
Applied physics. I love that framing.
It's so useful. Because we must assume, for the sake of this analysis, that the ancient writers were not hallucinating magic. They were documenting the brutal physical realities of human survival, the immense friction of keeping a society together, and the unforgiving laws of nature.
So if we read the text this way, every single spiritual or miraculous word we encounter it's actually a container, right?
Yes, a linguistic vessel.
Yeah.
It's meant to hold a very practical, material, or psychological truth.
A container for a material truth. I want to linger on that for a second because it completely changes how you read the text. It means we have to really peel back the layers of the vocabulary.
And that's exactly what we're going to do.
Right, so here is our mission for you today. We are going straight into the text of Genesis 1, and we are going to look at the mechanics of its language.
We want to understand what physical friction or social crisis the ancient community was facing that made them invent this specific language.
Exactly. And then we are going to do something really ambitious. We are going to trace the specific material mechanisms established in Genesis 1 along a continuous, unbroken wire straight into the New Testament.
We want to see exactly how those survival mechanisms are structurally absorbed and utilized by Christ.
Right. And to be clear, we are not going to just jump to the end and slap a generic feel-good summary of the gospel onto an Old Testament text.
No, we are going to show the math. We are looking for the exact dialectical links, where the specific mechanism of ordering chaos in the ancient world becomes a literal physical action in the first century.
So let's get right into it, starting at the literal beginning. It is arguably the most famous opening line in all of human literature. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth.
Everyone knows it.
Right. And on the surface, it sounds like a straightforward account of the Big Bang, or, a divine magician snapping his fingers.
But when we dig into the original Hebrew, the entire picture shifts, doesn't it?
It doesn't just shift, it transforms into a completely different kind of document.
Let's break that down. The original Hebrew phrase is Bereshit bara Elohim et hashamayim ve'et haaretz.
Okay, that's a mouthful.
It is. And the English translation completely obscures the mechanical reality of what's happening here. Let's start with the very first word, bereshit.
Okay, the beginning.
Well, here's the thing. In Hebrew, this word actually lacks a definite article. It does not mean in the absolute singular beginning of all time, space, and matter.
Wait, pause right there.
Yeah.
I grew up hearing exactly that. I mean, creation out of nothing ex nihilo is basically the bedrock of Western theological teaching.
Oh, absolutely it is.
Are you saying thousands of years of Sunday school completely missed the mark on the very first word of the book?
I'm saying that if we look at the historical and linguistic reality of the ancient Near East, yes. The concept of ex nihilo is a much later philosophical invention.
Wow.
It was projected backward onto the text by later thinkers. For the ancient writers, bereshit was much closer to meaning at the start of the ordering, or the beginning of a specific social narrative.
Okay, so it's not the physics of the universe's origin. It's the origin of human structure.
Precisely. It's the moment humans started to consciously organize their reality.
Yeah.
And then you have the word Elohim, which is translated as God.
Right, the creator.
But grammatically, Elohim is a plural noun.
Plural. God, like gods.
Yes, grammatically plural, but it functions in the sentence with a singular verb.
Okay, that's weird. How does that work sociologically?
Materially, this represents a collective organizing will. It is the assembled social power of a community acting as one.
Oh, I see. So it's not a metaphysical trinity floating in the ether before time existed.
Exactly. It's the community's combined effort. And then we hit the verb bara, which is famously translated as created.
Let me guess. It doesn't mean created out of nothing either.
You guessed it. In these ancient manuscripts, bara never means pulling a rabbit out of an empty hat.
So what does it mean?
It implies a functional separation, a setting apart, or a process of organizing. It's an act of distinguishing things that are already physically there, but are currently useless or dangerous.
Okay, let me try to put an analogy to this to make sure I'm tracking.
Go for it.
It's like walking into a massive hoarder-level, completely chaotic garage.
Oh, I like this.
There is stuff everywhere, right? Broken glass, old paint cans, rusted tools. You don't create the garage out of nothing. You walk in, survey the disaster, you start saying, okay, the usable tools go here on this wall, the toxic trash goes out to the curb, the wood gets stacked in the corner.
That is a perfect material analogy.
You are ordering the chaos so the space can actually be lived in and used.
Yes. So the accurate forensic translation of Genesis 1.1 isn't about cosmic physics at all.
What would it be?
It is essentially at the start of the ordering, the assembled powers set apart the skies and the land.
That is wild. It is literally the emergence of social order from raw, unformed material.
And the text immediately tells us exactly how bad that raw material was in verse 2.
Right. Verse 2 describes the baseline condition before the ordering begins.
Yeah.
The text says the earth was tohu vabohu.
Which is usually translated as formless and void.
Yeah, and that darkness was on the face of the Tehom, the deep abyss.
I want us to really sit with that phrase, tohu vabohu. It is such a visceral, almost guttural phrase in Hebrew.
It sounds aggressive.
It denotes desolation, ruin, and unlivable, unformed potential. It is not empty outer space. It is raw, aggressive chaos.
It's the environment that wants to kill you. I mean, if you are an ancient agrarian tribe, tohu vabohu is the famine that wipes out your children.
Yeah.
It's the invading empire that burns your village to the ground. It is looking at a collapsed society after a brutal war or staring into an utterly hostile, untamed wilderness.
You're staring at ruin, absolute ruin.
And in the face of that absolute ruin, the text gives us this striking image, the spirit, the ruach, hovering over the waters.
This is a critical moment to peel back the layers of the vocabulary. Ruach is almost always translated as spirit or ghost.
Right, Holy Spirit.
But materially, it means an animating force, a breath or a wind. It is the vital energy of the community.
Okay, so not a phantom.
No. And notice the specific verb used for what this breath is doing. Mereshaphet.
Merashaphet, what does that mean?
It means hovering or a gentle fluttering, like a mother bird hovering over a nest. It is distinctly not a violent, dominating control.
Just hovering.
It is hovering. It is waiting.
The psychological and sociological truth embedded there is staggering, honestly.
It really is.
Think about it. When a community is faced with absolute chaos, a ruined city, a hostile environment, an economic collapse, what's the immediate human instinct?
Usually panic or violence.
Exactly. The instinct is for a strong man to step in and violently seize control to force order. But the text says the first moral gesture of a surviving community is not violent domination.
It is attention.
Attention, yes. Stillness before work. The collective will is assessing the ruin, breathing it in, analyzing the broken pieces of the garage before beginning the agonizing labor of actually building civilization.
Because that stillness is the prerequisite for survival. You cannot order chaos until you have taken the time to truly observe it without flinching.
Without flinching, that's powerful.
Which brings us directly into the next phase of the algorithm, the invention of moral clarity.
Verses 3 through 5, the observation turns into action.
Exactly.
Verse 3, and God said, let there be light.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if we are viewing this strictly as applied physics, I have to completely shift my perspective here.
How so?
Well, my whole life, I've pictured a wizard casting a spell with a glowing wand. Pop, there's light.
Right, the magical interpretation.
But if speech here is a metaphor for action, what is the actual physical friction happening in this moment?
The friction is the terrifying decision to see.
To see.
Yes. Like the word, or in Hebrew, represents the collective call for illumination and moral clarity.
Okay, I'm following.
Imagine a surviving community huddled in the dark. Both literal darkness and the metaphorical darkness of ignorance or denial.
Darkness is deadly. Ignorance gets you killed.
Exactly. So the decision to say, let there be light, is the brutal recognition that reality must be faced without illusion.
It's the motion of consciousness waking up.
Yes.
Out of the darkness of raw, reactive animal survival arises human consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
The decision to see the reality of your situation.
Like to look at the famine.
To look at the invading army. To look at the brokenness of your own tribe. That is the very first step of labor.
You can't fix the ruined garage if you refuse to turn on the overhead light and look at the mess.
That is so true.
And once the light is on, the text gives us a masterclass in human progress. Verses 4 and 5 say, God saw the light, that it was good, and separated the light from the darkness.
Okay, so there's a process here.
Yes, this establishes a fundamental rhythm. Create, observe, evaluate, divide.
Create, observe, evaluate, divide. Let me write that down.
The collective will generates the illumination, observes its effect, and evaluates it.
And they find it practically useful.
Exactly. The Hebrew phrase is kitaf, which doesn't just mean morally pure in some abstract sense. It means functional, satisfying, and good for survival.
So this rhythm, create, observe, evaluate, divide, that isn't magic.
No.
That is the scientific method.
It really is.
That is the absolute basis of all engineering, agriculture, and social structuring.
And then the text does something incredibly specific that really highlights this. It says, God called the light day, and the darkness he called night.
Now, naming something in the ancient world isn't just slapping a sticky label on a jar, right?
Not at all. It is asserting order and defining a thing's function.
So what does this all mean? Why does giving a name to day and night matter so much for the physical survival of humans?
It matters because this is the invention of time-bound reliability.
Time-bound reliability.
Yes. If you are going to have a functioning society, if you're going to organize labor to plant a harvest, or if you are going to hold someone accountable for stealing from their neighbor, you absolutely must have measurable time.
Without time, everything is just a blur.
Exactly. By defining day and night, the terrifying infinite chaos of the wilderness is given a rhythm. The text repeats, and there was evening, and there was morning.
Evening and morning.
That represents a completed, reliable cycle of becoming.
Wow. That actually gives me chills, honestly.
Right.
The world is now safe enough to host memory and responsibility.
Think about it from a societal standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, if there is no yesterday and no tomorrow, you can't have a promise.
You can't have a contract.
You can't have justice. You can't say, you wronged me yesterday and you must pay me back tomorrow if time is just a formless blur of survival.
Right. You need the reliable rhythm of the day and the night to serve as the foundation to hold the weight of civilization.
That is precisely the structural utility of the concept. It's so practical.
And once you have the foundation of time, you need the physical scaffolding of the environment.
Which leads us to verses 6 through 19, boundaries and delegation.
Exactly. In verses 6 through 8, the text says, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters.
The word firmament.
Yeah.
Again, that sounds like archaic poetry to a modern reader.
It does.
What does the Hebrew word rakia actually mean in a tangible material sense?
Rakia translates literally to a hammered-out expanse, like an ancient metalsmith beating out a sheet of bronze.
There's a hard barrier.
Yes. The material reality the text is presenting is that the undivided, hostile, churning water of the abyss is being given inner structure.
It's being separated.
And I want you to notice something crucial here. The water isn't banished. It isn't magicked out of existence.
It's still there.
It is managed. It is split into the waters above and the waters below.
That is such a vital distinction for how we interact with the world. You don't destroy nature to survive, you differentiate it to create a livable pocket of space.
Exactly. This is the ancient community learning that morality and survival require rigid boundaries.
I mean, if you live near a floodplain, you have to build the dam. You have to dig the irrigation ditches.
You have to put up the walls.
The rakia, this vault, is the skeletal framework of a world where your children won't drown in the night.
Yes. And once those boundaries are securely set, the text shifts gears dramatically.
Into the economy of production in verses 9 through 13.
Right. The seas are gathered to reveal dry land, which is called yabasha.
Dry land, finally.
And then the text says, let the land produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees on the land that bear fruit with seed in it, according to their various kinds.
Okay, seed in itself. That specific phrase was highlighted repeatedly in our sources for this deep dive.
Because it's a massive shift.
It signals a shift in how the ancient mind was conceiving of the world, moving from external ordering to what the sources called autonomous generation.
Autonomous generation.
Yeah, but let's break that jargon down. What does autonomous generation actually look like for a Bronze Age farmer?
Well, think about it like the difference between manual labor and writing a software script.
Oh, interesting.
If you are manually ordering chaos, you have to wake up every single day and enforce the rules. You have to physically hold the waters back.
Wow, which is exhausting.
But the seed in itself is the concept of a structure reproducing its own order without constant exhausting intervention.
So the sociological truth here is the base of all enduring civilization, the natural economy.
Exactly.
If you look at the wording here, you'll notice something amazing. God doesn't micromanage.
Not at all.
He doesn't snap his fingers and explicitly design every individual blade of grass or every single apple. The command is, let the earth bring forth.
The system is set up to run itself. A society only survives when its life-sustaining structures become self-perpetuating.
Whether that is its agricultural rotation, its education system, or its moral codes.
Yes. The land is doing the producing. The seed contains the instructions for the next generation.
So the burden of survival is being transferred from the immediate, exhausting labor of the organizing will into the embedded structure of the environment itself.
That's exactly it. And then they take that concept of autonomous systems even further in verses 14 through 19.
We get the delegation of governance.
Right. The text describes the creation of the sun, moon, and stars to rule or govern the day and the night.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of ancient human history, this is a shockingly revolutionary moment in literature, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, in almost every other surrounding ancient culture, the sun and the moon were literal gods.
Right, like Ra in Egypt.
Exactly. They were capricious, unpredictable deities that had to be appeased with blood or sacrifice so they wouldn't destroy you.
Just terrifying forces.
But here, this text introduces the dawn of non-theocratic order.
Wait, non-theocratic in the Bible?
Yes. The Elohim is delegating its authority to physical, visible, predictable systems.
The sun and the moon are given a job description.
They are told to separate, to shine, and to govern.
Meaning that governance is tied to visibility and function, not just arbitrary, terrifying force.
It's not a dictator striking you with lightning on a whim. It's the sun rising at the exact same time every single morning.
The system is autonomous. It is reliable.
The ancient writers are figuring out that true goodness isn't just a burst of creative energy. It is durable autonomy.
You set the rules of the society, you build the framework, and then you let the rules govern impartially.
And that impartiality is key. Because once those impartial rules are governing, the environment is finally stable enough to support real dangerous complexity.
Which brings us to the economics of abundance in verses 20 through 23.
The integration of the wild.
Yeah, the waters swarm with living creatures, birds fly across the firmament. And the text specifically pauses to highlight the creation of great sea beasts, the tannin.
The tannin, yes.
I have to admit, out of all the animals to specifically name drop in the creation account, why single out giant, terrifying sea monsters? It seems so out of place.
It seems out of place to us today, sure. But if we peel back the psychology of the ancient writers, it is profoundly insightful.
How so?
Remember, the sea was the ultimate symbol of chaos, death, and the unknown.
Right, it's where storms come from. People drown there.
Exactly. And the monsters within it represented the wild, the vast, the terrifying, and the uncommanded forces of the world.
The things you can't control.
By explicitly stating that the Elohim created the tannin, The text is declaring that these monsters are not outside of the good system.
They aren't mistakes.
No, they are not cursed anomalies. In fact, they are immediately blessed to be fruitful and multiply.
So the project of civilization doesn't require suppressing every single piece of wild power. It just gives that power an order and a home.
Right. This establishes a materialist ethic of abundance, not scarcity.
Abundance.
Yeah.
Because you don't have to kill everything that scares you.
Exactly. A fragile, paranoid society panics at the sight of the wild or the frightening. It tries to eradicate everything it can't immediately control.
But a strong, resilient society integrates those massive, churning complexities into its ecosystem. It makes room for the unknown without assuming it is inherently evil. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting.
Right.
We've built the environment, we've set the clock, we've delegated the rules, and we've integrated the wild. Now humanity finally enters history. Verses 24 through 31.
The climax of the chapter.
The text says, "Let us make humanity in our image. Let them rule and subdue."
This is where we have to completely dismantle the traditional metaphysical view of what the image of God means.
Because we usually think of it as humans having a soul, or like looking like God physically.
Right. But materially, based on the text we've just read, what has the Elohim, the collective organizing, been doing this entire chapter?
It's been working. It's been laboring. It has been taking absolute deadly chaos and turning it into a livable order through observation, boundary setting, and delegation.
Exactly. Therefore, to be made in that image is to labor consciously.
It's the birth of the conscious worker.
Yes. It means humanity's fundamental nature is to transform nature rather than drift passively within it like an animal.
And the text gives them a specific subjugation command. Subdue the earth kabash and rule it rada.
And we need to be very careful with those words.
Yeah, because in modern times, when people hear the words subdue and rule, they immediately think of strip mining, deforestation, and capitalist plunder.
It sounds like a license to exploit the earth until it's dead.
Exactly.
But that is a severe modern projection. That is not what those words meant to a tribe standing in a hostile wilderness.
What did it mean to them?
They represent the grueling, necessary human task of shaping the earth through reason and toil just to survive.
To survive.
To subdue the earth is to dig the well so your village has water during a drought.
Right.
To rule is to organize the harvest so the community doesn't starve to death when winter comes.
It is the continuation of what started in verse 1, organizing chaos into cultivated order.
The moral weight of the entire world is now handed over to human stewardship.
The scaffolding has been built by the collective will, and now humans have to run the machine.
Yes, they're the operators.
Okay, so let's take a breath and look at what we've constructed here.
It's a lot.
It is. We have established Genesis 1 not as a fairy tale, but as a forensic, material record of a community discovering how to survive.
They learned an algorithm.
Right. Confront the chaos, observe it, evaluate it, set boundaries, delegate authority, and build resilient systems. We have built the machine.
And now, it is time to fulfill the ultimate requirement of our materialist Christian framework.
We have to trace the wire.
Yes. We must map the exact dialectical trajectory of these mechanisms straight into the New Testament.
And remember the absolute constraint we established at the beginning. We are not just making a thematic leap to a generic summary of the gospel.
No, we are mapping the structural math. We are looking for the exact physical moments where Christ directly confronts, absorbs, or utilizes the specific material mechanisms of Genesis 1 in the real world of the Roman Empire.
Let's run the first wire. The word as labor becomes the word made flesh.
A classic transition.
In Genesis 1, we saw that the speech act of saying, "Let there be light," was the actual mechanism of labor. It was the tool that ordered the darkness into a livable structure.
Right.
Now, we jump centuries forward to the New Testament destination. John chapter 1, verses 1 through 14. In the beginning was the Word, the Logos, and the Word was made flesh.
The Logos.
But how does a concept, a word, become a physical guy walking around in sandals?
To understand that, we have to look at the Greek term logos. It doesn't just mean a spoken syllable or a neat idea.
What does it mean materially?
Logos means reason, structure, meaning, and the underlying moral truth of the universe.
So John is not writing a new fantastical myth here.
Not at all. He is revealing what Genesis always meant, but evolving it. The moral logic that ordered the physical universe, that create, observe, evaluate, divide rhythm, could no longer just be an abstract text.
Why not?
Because the historical friction had gotten too high, the Roman Empire was suffocating them. It needed to enter time and space as a living, breathing, bleeding embodiment.
It needed a body to absorb the blows of reality.
Yes. Jesus is the culmination of that historical dialectical motion. The abstract mechanism of ordering chaos takes a physical, human form.
So if the word in Genesis was the labor that drew the blueprints and built the house,
The Word made flesh, in John, is the person who actually moves into the house, lives in it, and shows you how to withstand the storm when the roof starts leaking under the pressure of the real world.
oh, that is a fantastic way to put it, which perfectly sets up our second trajectory.
The let there be light mechanism reaching the cross in Pentecost.
Exactly. The baseline from Genesis 1 is the separation of light from dark and the establishing of the rakia, the firmament, to hold back the waters of chaos so humans can survive.
The boundary.
Right. And the New Testament destination is Christ's ministry and the formation of the early church in the book of Acts.
Let's draw the line.
Let me push you on the specific material connection here. How does a rabbi in the first century actually utilize the architectural mechanism of Genesis 1?
He does it by physically becoming the architecture.
Becoming it.
Yes, Christ does not offer a metaphysical escape hatch from reality.
He doesn't say, believe in me and you'll magically float away from your problems.
No, he offers material reorganization. In Matthew 5:17, he explicitly says he comes to fulfill the law, not destroy it.
He is taking the ancient structure of Genesis and completing its logic in a society that has entirely collapsed under corruption.
And the cross is the ultimate, brutal, structural proof of this.
How so? Because, traditionally, the cross is taught as a magical blood sacrifice to appease an angry God.
Right, but sociologically, systems only endure when someone willingly absorbs the friction of that system.
Absorbs the friction.
The Roman Empire was Tohu Vabohu 2.0.
Oh, wow.
It was a new, terrifying abyss of violence, oppression, and raw power. The cross is Christ taking on the absolute heaviest load, the ultimate contradiction and violence of the Roman state, and refusing to let it break the moral order.
He does not retaliate with more chaos.
He absorbs it. He separates the light from the dark, the truth from the violence with his own physical body.
He acts as the firmament.
Exact.
He is the human rakia, holding back the floodwaters of vengeance and chaos so that a new community can breathe and survive underneath. That is incredible.
It is the ultimate embodiment of the survival algorithm.
And that leads to the ultimate fulfillment. Pentecost.
The return of the breath.
Yes. In Genesis 1.2, we had the Spirit, the Ruach, hovering over the absolute ruin of the earth, that animating breath of attention and coordination before the labor begins.
And fast forward to the book of Acts, and the Spirit returns at Pentecost.
But again, we have to strip away the magic. It is not a spooky ghost possessing people to make them speak gibberish.
Materially, the Spirit at Pentecost is the internalization of the dialectical method we just mapped.
What actually physically happens on a random Tuesday afternoon in the book of Acts after Pentecost?
The text explicitly tells us widows are fed.
Property is voluntarily sold and shared.
The powerful are rebuked. Mutual language and trust are established across completely different hostile cultures.
So the Spirit is simply the name given to the specific, localized social infrastructure that reliably reproduces care, equity, and survival when the state fails.
Exactly. Think about the historical context. The Roman Empire was crushing them. Their leader had just been publicly executed. It was desolation and ruin all over again.
Tohu vabohu.
Yes, and the community's response was not to riot, and it wasn't to give up and die. They used the Spirit that coordinated emergent moral consciousness to order the chaos once again.
They built the boundaries, they delegated the governance to deacons to distribute food, they ensured abundance for the poor.
Genesis 1 is repeated, but this time it isn't an external voice from the sky.
The algorithm is internalized in the human heart and the social collective.
They evolved from needing a king to becoming a resilient, self-sustaining network.
That brings everything completely full circle. So, stepping back from the ancient texts, from the Greek and the Hebrew and the Roman Empire,
Let's bring it to today.
why should you, the listener, care about any of this? Whether you are a devout, lifelong believer who goes to church every Sunday, or a staunch, skeptical atheist who thinks religion is a psychological crutch.
Why does this matter?
You should care because materialist Christianity shows us that the moral structures we rely on every single day, our concepts of justice, human dignity, the very idea of having a weekend to rest after a week of labor.
These are not arbitrary rules imposed from the sky.
They are survival technologies.
They are the applied physics of human continuity. You are navigating these exact same forces today in your workplace, your family, and your society.
When you set a healthy boundary to protect your family from a toxic situation, you are creating a firmament.
When you demand transparency and truth in a corrupt corporate system, you are saying, let there be light. You are pushing back the chaos.
You are operating the ancient machinery of Genesis.
Which leaves us with a critical, deeply provocative question to mull over as we wrap up.
Lay it on us.
If God is the name that ancient peoples gave to reliable, large-scale, morally consequential patterns once they learned to trust them with their lives, what are the invisible load-bearing structures in our modern society that we're relying on but completely failing to name or maintain?
Oh, that's heavy.
It is.
If the timeline collapses tomorrow, if the supply chains break, and our current institutions fail, do we have the spirit?
Do we have that horizontal, this worldly infrastructure to feed the vulnerable, protect the weak, and order the chaos?
Or have we become so obsessed with the magic that we've forgotten how to build the ark?
That is the ultimate question the text forces us to ask. The mechanics of survival are laid out in front of us. The blueprint is right there.
The only question is whether we have the collective will to actually use it. Like we said at the very beginning, you might think you are holding a spell book, or you might think you are holding a myth.
Or, if you look closely enough,
Peel back the layers and face the friction of reality, you might just be holding the blueprints for human survival. Keep questioning the structures around you. We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.